Hi everyone, today we are from Group 1 from Class ZMT 431. Gonna make a movie review about Fukushima 50. So, I'm Ahmad Yusof bin Ahmad Jasmin and these four are my beloved partners. So let's get into it. Engku will make the question 1 and 6. Qhairunnisa will make the question 2 and 8. Syazali will make question 3 and 9. Siti Syazwani will make 4 and 5. And me, Ahmad Yusof, will make question 7 and editing this video.
The Fukushima 50 movie is a dramatization of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in 2011, which was set off by a 9-magnitude earthquake. So this large-scale earthquake generated massive tsunamis which swept over the nuclear power plant's seawall, surging over their defenses and flooding the power plant. So this flooding caused the failure of the emergency generators and loss of power to the circulating pumps, which is vital in cooling the reactors by removing residual decay heat produced even after fusion has ceased. So the resultant loss of reactor core cooling system subsequently led to the overheating of nuclear cores, in other words, nuclear meltdowns, whereas the explosions were caused by buildups of hydrogen gas from the spent fuel pool, where in that pool there were used nuclear fuel rods that released decay heat, and as the water level dropped, the used fuel rods were exposed to the air and hydrogen was formed. It then mixed with oxygen and ended up with a hydrogen explosion.
Hi, my name is Wan Nur Qhairunnisa. For question number 2, I will explain about the chronological event as emergency response and procedure during this incident. Before the tsunami happened, the detector will alert and loud alarms of mega tsunami warning were sounded to warn nearby residents. They asked people who stay nearest to the ocean to start evacuating. From the movie Fukushima 50, we know that after the tsunami happened, their stations are blackout. The head manager declares nuclear emergency process, referring to the Act on Special Measures Concerning the Nuclear Emergency Preparedness Article 10, and the Emergency Response Central Office will take over. By looking at this movie, we knew that the team will keep checking the value of parameter of the radiation, the water level and the pressure level in order to monitor the danger level. If the reading had passed the limit, they will ask residents to increase the radius of evacuation area. We also noticed that their generator of power plant are underwater. In order to monitor the value, they has been decided to get alternative power supply. Because of the parameter value had passed the limit, the venting procedure needs to be done in order to release the pressure from inside of the equipment.
My name is Syazali bin Sukri. Venting procedure is a process where the excess pressure from the reactor is released into the atmosphere. This was done to prevent the rupture of the vessel that housed the nuclear rod because it is overheating due to the lack of cooling system caused by the earthquake and tsunami. The nuclear rods are exposed to the air due to the evaporation of water inside the nuclear vessel, which has caused the build-up of hydrogen gas. When ventilation occurs, the hydrogen gas is released into the atmosphere with some radiation to prevent explosions. The radiation contamination of ventings are supposed to be lesser than a contamination caused by the reactor explosions.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Siti Syazwani Nasuha, binti Hasni. I'm a third-year student from School Physics, majoring in Geophysics. In the movie, we can see that teams of veteran engineers were sent into the high radiation area for the venting procedure. This is because the veterans have more experience, therefore they could be relied on to make the correct decisions on the spot. It is also to ensure that in the case of a similar incident in the future, there will be a well-equipped team of engineers that will be able to respond to the situation properly based on the experience gained during the disaster. In short, youths are the future of any organization. Therefore, it was wise to save the young and send the veterans. The teams take turns because each trip can only be done for 20 minutes due to the oxygen tank capacity. This is also in order to avoid excessive exposure to radiation, which will lead to health concerns in the long term. We can also see that the teams are using protective suits complete with a face mask and an oxygen tank. This is to prevent contamination via external skin contact with radioactive substances or internal contamination caused by inhalation or ingestion of radionuclides. These radionuclides will retain in the body and cause severe damage over time. The suits worn in high-risk situations, such as the one shown in the movie, are bulky and have poor thermal regulation. Additionally, they do not protect completely from ionizing radiation. Therefore, the engineers must carry a dosimeter at all times in order to keep an eye on radiation levels.
Moving on to biological effects from radiation exposure, reports have shown that there were no acute radiation injuries or deaths among the workers or the public due to exposure to radiation resulting from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident. However, as for the Fukushima 50, which are the workers who stayed to help with the nuclear meltdowns, were estimated to have received the highest absorbed radiation doses to the thyroid, resulting in an increased risk of developing thyroid cancer and other thyroid disorders. And about 160 additional workers who received whole body effective doses estimated to be an over 100 millisieverts. An increased risk of cancer could be expected in the future, although it will not be detectable by epidemiological studies because of the difficulty of confirming a small incidence against the normal statistical fluctuations in cancer incidence. And according to the Japanese government, it is believed that the health effects of radioactivity release are primarily psychological rather than physical effects. But in 2018, one worker in charge of measuring radiation at the plant did indeed die of lung cancer caused by radiation exposure.
From what I have learned about the movie Fukushima 50, the movie is not just a summarization of the events of the Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster, but also as a show of gratitude to those who fought to control the situation, preventing the worst case scenario from happening, the reactor exploding. It also offers sincerest prayers for the people who were affected and to those who lost their life in this terrible tragedy. One of the noble morals I learned from this event is to be determined and to never give up in any current situation, no matter how dire. The on-site workers have my utmost respect for their strong iron unfaltering in going to decompress the pressure in the suppression chamber manually, even though the massive risk of excessive radiation exposure and blazing hot temperature that could have meant death. Other than that, the attitude to always respect to everyone and anyone. It is the Japanese culture to always be polite to their higher-ups. Bowing is also an act of apologizing. Whatever they fail to do something, they quickly bow and reflecting on what went wrong. However, some immoral action I found in the movie were letting decisions made by an unqualified person. It is extremely careless to let an unexperienced prime minister to take over the movement of life, risking working conditions, let alone self-decision. The organizing procedures of the professionals is to minimize the damage caused by the exploding reactor. After that, always alert for the emergency alarm and to take it seriously. No matter where you are or what business you have, always keep up to date on the emergency situation. At least leave another professional to substitute and handle the case if there is some unavoidable reason. Lastly, never ever let our egos affect our decision making process. The technology present are in fact sophisticated enough to handle most of the common threats such as earthquake, tsunami, and cyclone. However, we must never underestimate the power of Mother Nature.
For question number 8, if you are able to make things right in the movie, what would I do to improve the situation during the disaster? First and foremost, I think I will select an expert in the nuclear field to be the representative minister to avoid making unreasonable decisions and know how to handle the situations quickly and efficiently. Majoring in economics will not help them to overcome and come with a good idea. Secondly, maybe I will install a louder alarm to ask people alert seriously and evacuate rapidly. We can see when the warning has been issued, the crew are not take it seriously and panic after looking at the water level.
In my view, I am totally against the idea of Malaysia building its own nuclear power plant. Commercial nuclear power is always viewed by the general society as a dangerous source of energy. This is due to the previous nuclear incidents such as the Chernobyl disaster and the 3 Mile incident in the 1980, which has caused massive radioactivity contamination and property loss. This has put doubt in society's mind about the nuclear energy. The false perception of publics on associations of nuclear power and nuclear weapons due to its being portrayed in the movies also contributed to this mindset. The country's poor waste management are a big problem to the disposal and transportation of used nuclear fuel. The transportation and disposal of spent nuclear fuels are very important as the used nuclear fuel still emits highly radioactive radiation and heats for decades even after it has been used. Improper nuclear waste management can be devastating as radioactive contamination will occur. The third reason is highly operating costs. Nuclear power plants require frequent maintenance, inspection, strict regulation, and high staff capacity, which will result in high financial burden to the country.